Hello, welcome to our brief stargazing guide for April. This guide, like the preceding ones, is intended to be usable outdoors, which explains my usage of red color. It is also intended to be usable in light polluted skies, so we identify objects beginning with the bright enough stars to be seen from urban skies. In the process, we also show related objects that may not be that much visible for urban viewers. This way, the guide becomes useful also for viewers lucky enough to be in dark skies. All illustrations used in this guide have been obtained from Stellarium app, but you can also see them easily on Stellarium web. The illustrations present the objects in their approximate position as they would appear from about 50 degrees north of equator between 10 and 11 p.m. in April. I have also made small adjustments to the time and date to reduce the moon's glare. Next, let me give a summary of what we are going to find in this guide. In the east and southeastern sky, we are going to see the stars Spica, Arcturus, and the nebula. These stars form the spring triangle asterism. In this direction, we will also see the constellations Boötis, the kite, and asterism Big Dipper, which is roughly overhead. In the southern sky, we are going to see the constellation Leo, the lion, and its main stars Regulus and the nebula. We will also find the Sickle asterism, which is part of the constellation Leo. The winter show of bright stars has now moved into the western sky and is slowly setting, but we can still see most of its bright stars there. Looking in this direction, we will find Procyon, Polaris, Capella, and Betelgeuse. We will also find the constellations Gemini and Auriga. We will then conclude our tour by visiting the northern sky to find the positions of the constellation Cassiopeia, the Little Dipper asterism, and the stars Polaris and Vega, which is now the dominant star in the northeastern sky. Now, ready to begin with the east and east-southern sky. Facing east and slightly to the right, and then raising your eyes up, it is easy to see a bright star that stands out in that direction, which looks reddish. This is Arcturus, a red giant in the constellation Boötis. The constellation Boötis extends to the left, but the rest of stars may be too dim to be seen if we are watching from a light polluted sky. So I will draw its shape for you, and if you are in an area with dark sky, you will find it easy to follow like this. And then finish the shape like this. You probably already see that it looks like a kite or an ice cream, which makes it the kite asterism. If you raise your eyes further up, from the left end of the constellation Boötis, you will see the Big Dipper asterism, which is almost overhead this time. The Big Dipper asterism is made up of these stars here, and its shape looks like this. It is useful to see how we can point to Arcturus from the Big Dipper's handle, because Big Dipper is easier to spot. From the handle of Big Dipper, we can find Arcturus by extending it with an arc like this. Extending this arc further with a straight line from Arcturus like this will take you to another bright whitish star down here, which is called Spica, in the constellation Vega. Arcturus and Spica mark two angles of the spring triangle asterism. To get the shape of the spring triangle, we draw lines running in the upward direction such that they meet at a relatively dimmer star up here, like this. This star is called the nebula, and it is in the constellation Leo, the lion, which we will talk about more when we turn to the southern sky. Now, let us turn to the southern sky. Here, the spring triangle is on our left, and it looks like this, with Arcturus here, Spica here, and the nebula here. The nebula is in the constellation Leo. To trace the constellation Leo, let us first identify the bright stars in it. Extend the line from Arcturus to the nebula rightward with a small turn like this to the bright star ahead. This star is Regulus, the brightest star in the constellation Leo. Above the line from the nebula to Regulus, there are two visible stars that we can trace with lines like this, and then connect the top like this. With the bright stars in the constellation Leo identified, we can now trace the body of the lion, which looks like this, and complete the head like this. Lastly, before we leave the southern sky, we identify the Sickle asterism by taking out the back of the lion like this. You will probably agree that this shape does indeed look like a sickle. Turning to the western sky, we find the bright stars of the winter sky on their way to set, but most of them are still up and visible. In the sky that we are looking at here, Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, has already set, so we need to pick another bright star to begin with. Looking straight west, above the horizon is the bright reddish star, the red giant Betelgeuse. Now, if we draw a line in the left upward direction towards the next bright star like this, it will take us to Procyon in the constellation Canis Minor. Drawing another line in the uprightward direction and slightly longer than the first one, like this, it will take us to Capella in the constellation Auriga. In the middle of this V shape, up here, is a pair of stars Polaris and Castor. These two are the heads of the twins in the constellation Gemini. In the right downward direction of Betelgeuse is another bright star, Aldebaran, in the constellation Taurus, the bull. Now, let us trace two constellations in this area, Gemini and Auriga. The rest of stars in the constellation Gemini may be too faint to see if you are watching from a light-polluted sky. If you are in a dark sky area, you can complete the shape with me like this. This gives us a shape of twins. From Capella, we can trace the shape of constellation Auriga like this. Now we turn to the northern sky. Facing north, raise your eyes up slightly to the left and try to identify a pattern of stars that can be connected with lines to form a rotated W shape like this. This is constellation Cassiopeia. Running a line from the middle of this constellation here in the up rightward direction like this to the next bright star will land you on Polaris. Polaris is very close to the north celestial pole. It appears to remain at the same position all night, with the rest of stars rotating counterclockwise around it. It marks the beginning of the Little Dipper, which looks like this. Once we have found the Little Dipper, it is always good to trace the Big Dipper, which we achieve by extending a line from Polaris straight up like this until we hit the next bright star. These stars here are the pointer stars. They are part of the Big Dipper asterism, which extends to the right like this. You probably see now how everything is connected. As we saw earlier, from the tip of the Big Dipper's handle, we can find Arcturus by extending an arc like this. And then the story we saw in the eastern sky starts all over again. And lastly, while looking north, sweep your eyes from this end of Cassiopeia in the rightward direction like this until you see a very bright whitish star. This star is Vega, the brightest star in this area of the sky in April. It is also the brightest star in the constellation Lyra. And that is the end of our brief tour of April night sky. It is my hope that you found it helpful. If so, please like and leave comments if you have any. Thank you for watching.